Good morning, primary class, and happy Thanksgiving. This is our Thursday lesson for our story, Almost Persuaded. If you remember yesterday, we left off. The storm was just tearing the ship apart, and they were about to run aground, but Paul had a special vision from the angel that said that if they stayed with the ship, that they would not be lost. The captain and the centurion must have known by this time that they should have listened to Paul. They should have stayed in Fair Havens during the winter. Now the sailors were trying to leave the ship in their only lifeboat, but the soldiers cut the rope to the lifeboat and it fell into the sea. Acts 27, verse 32 tells us about that. Then the soldiers cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. Next, Paul insisted that everyone eat something. They had all been so worried and working so frantically that they hadn't thought about eating or drinking. Paul promised that not one of them was going to lose his life in verse 33 through 36. And while the day was coming on, Paul besought them all to take meat, saying, This day is the 14th day that ye have tarried and continued fasting and taken nothing. Wherefore I pray you to take some meat, for this is for your health. For there shall be not a hair fall from the head of any of you. And when he had thus spoken, he took bread and gave thanks to God in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then they were all of good cheer, and they also took some meat. Did the ship get stuck like Paul said it would? Verse 37 through 41 tells us about it. And when we were all in the ship, 216 souls. That's a lot of people. And when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and cast out wheat into the sea. And when it was day, they knew not the land, but they discovered a certain creek with a shore into which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust the ship. And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves into the sea and loosed the rudder bands and hoisted up the mainsail to the wind and made toward the shore. And falling into a place where two seas met, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart struck fast and remained unmovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. Right away, the soldiers thought they should kill the prisoners so that no one would get away. But the centurion did not let the soldiers do that. He wanted to save Paul's life. Swim if you know how, he told everyone. If you don't know how to swim, hang on to anything that floats. Verse 42 through 44. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion, willing to save Paul's life, kept them from their purpose, and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land, and the rest some on boards and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to the land. At last everyone was safe, and how thankful they were to be alive. They were on an island of Malta. The people were heathen, but they were very kind. It was cold and raining, and the kind people quickly built a fire to help those wet, shivering people get warm and dry. Acts 28, verse 1 through 2. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita, and the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one, because of the present rain and because of the cold. Paul helped by gathering a bundle of sticks for the fire, but a very poisonous snake was in the bundle. What happened as he put the sticks onto the fire? In verse 3. And when Paul had gathered the bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened onto his hand. Oh no! Here's your question. Do you think that Paul was remembering Jesus' promise that he would go to Rome? Does Jesus keep his promises?